Hello and welcome to Murder Analysed. I'm Christina Moore. Now the case today we're going to look at is the Ahluwalia case. Okay, so I apologise now, and I don't mean any disrespect by how I pronounce these names. You know, it's this London accent that often gets in the way of things like that. But so I apologise for that from the outset. So anyway, let's now talk about this Ahluwalia case, and this is a case from 1989, and it's another United Kingdom case, the UK case of murder. Okay, so I think with this case, I'm going to have to say at the outset, really, this case is controversial. Even when I trained in law, this case was there. Okay, and if you study criminal law, this is a case that you would, which brings out debates. Actually, I have done debates on this and legal mooting on this case alone. So, and as you're training to be a lawyer, this is a case that you would want to know. And you will, as we go through this case, you will see this case and you will make up your own decision, because I'm not going to give my opinion on this case. I'm going to tell you the facts of this case and what happened with the case, and I'm going to leave it up to you. And without a doubt, you will make up your own opinion, as many people have, one way or the other on this case. Okay, so that's really, I think why I've done this case, because I think it is a talking point. It is going to create discussion for you. It is going to make you think, maybe not. So anyway, let's get on with the case. So anyway, Ahluwalia, she was born in India from a middle class family. She was the youngest, I think, of 9 children. Her mum and dad died when she was 16, and so her family brought her up, and she says herself that her childhood was idyllic. She was also trained in, well educated, so she had an arts degree, and also that she was also studying the law. So it must be a woman thing lately. So anyway, so she was studying law. So early stages, I think, but she was studying law. So she was an intelligent woman, all right? She'd already had a degree. She was an intelligent woman. She was the sort of person, I think, from even young, that didn't want your stereotypical life of just getting married and having children. She wanted more, and there's nothing wrong with that, because don't we all? So, but the culture she came from, I think, influenced her, and she was influenced by her brother and stuff to get married. So her older brother, moved to Canada, and in her 20s she went then to Canada to stay with him and his wife. They then influenced her and encouraged her to get married. You're 23, you should be married, this, that and the other. So she then decided, okay, I'll have to get married. Now again, in this culture, these are arranged marriages, okay? So he knew someone in England, UK, and he arranged then for Deepak, who had emigrated himself to United Kingdom in 1971. So, but then he then arranged for Deepak Ahluwalia to fly out to Canada and meet her, and then they literally, I think, met once, and then they were married. Okay, so she really didn't know this man at all. He seemed on this first meeting, as they all would, I suppose, we met someone the first time, he was a friendly, nice man, very good looking. So she thought, well, if I have to get married, because this is what this family expects of me to do, then he's probably the best choice, And, but what she states after that is, once they were married, even from that first day of marriage, the abuse started. So then they've left Canada, and now they've come back to England. Okay, so she's here, she's isolated with him, she's now married to him. This relationship now is very abusive. There's lots going on in this marriage. He doesn't want her to be westernized. He wants them to probably keep control, because that's really what it's all about. And that is his wife and his possession and his belonging, and that's what she's going to do. She also says that because of the abuse that she was suffering at the time, that she didn't want to have children by this man. But she then alleges that he was raping her. So let's now just talk about, this is 1989, and the laws in England didn't change until 1991. on where a man, it was a crime for a husband to rape his own wife. Okay, so she couldn't have gone to the police really about the rape and this, because really he couldn't have been charged with anything, because under the law at that time in 1989 he was entitled to rape his wife under the law. Because I think we need to look at, I suppose, the marriage really, because when you marry someone under English law at that time, you say love, honour and obey as part of your vows, don't you? So what is a marriage? A marriage is a contract really, or a form of contract. And so that's a very old law, and until 1991 that wasn't changed. Okay, thank God it was. And also the obey part of the marriage ceremony was removed from that, because you no longer have to say it. You can say if you want to, but it's not a legal requirement for then you to be married. So that was that part. Also in 1989 you've got the law in this country, the police powers in this country to take domestic violence seriously, and also to have the man arrested, not because, you know, when you have a person abusing somebody else, if I then want to press charges against that person, I could have. But at that time, the police didn't have powers, because usually the person being abused won't press charges, right? Because they're going to come back out and it's going to get worse. But now what the police have the powers to do today is to press charges themselves and remove that person from the home. That wasn't happening in 1989. Also, you've got to think with Ahluwalia that she was in this country, didn't speak greatest of English. She was kept away, I suppose, from Western society, and so found it difficult, even though she did, and give her that, she did go to the doctors. She had broken noses, broken tooth, broken fingers, punch mark bruises. She did have that, and she did get restraining orders against him, and that to stop this happening. So she did try. She also ran off, and he would follow her and bring her back, and then the beatings would get worse. So this was there, okay? This was evidence there to support her claims of battered wife syndrome, I suppose we should call it, because that's really what it is called. So on the day of the murder, I think it was the 9th of May 1989. It was in the evening time. Deepak had come in, and she said that he was having an affair as well. So he had been on the phone to the woman he was having an affair with. He had then come to her as she was ironing her clothes, ripped her hair back and held the iron to her face, a hot iron to her face. It didn't burn her, but held it there, and wanted money out of her. Okay, so he was trying to extort money, wanted money from the family. So this is what she's alleged happened on this occasion, okay, leading up to this, let alone all the other things that she had alleged happened, and what that was evidenced that some had happened as well. But on this day, that's what she said he did, right? Ripped her hair back, held the hot iron to her face, told her in a burner, also told that he was going to leave her, okay, and that if he didn't get that money by the morning, that when he got back that evening, he was going to beat her again, okay? So you've got this woman now, right, and this is where the facts of the case, this is the true facts of the case, and where you're going to have to make up your mind. So I've sort of tried to explain to you about her background and that, but now it's about what she did to him, okay? So he goes to bed, you know, so she's cooked him dinner and everything else, and he's gone to bed, right, on this 9th of May. And again, she said he's going to threaten her to beat her up the next day. So what she does, she tidies up and she goes to bed, but then she gets back up from bed, okay? She gets back up in the middle of the night, about 2 a.m. in the morning. And what she does, and what she had done 2 days prior, or a few days prior to that murder, is go and collect petrol. Okay, so she's got a can of petrol which she's put down in the the garage part of her home, or a siding part to the home, and she's hidden this petrol. She's also brought caustic soda. Okay, again, hid this. This is a few days now leading up, so even though this may have been the last incident she says about, she's already brought petrol and she's already brought caustic soda. Okay, so she then goes downstairs at 2 a.m. in the morning and starts to mix, puts the petrol in a bucket, okay, to make it easier to pour. And she also wears oven gloves. So then she goes into the bathroom and she runs a bath, and she adds caustic soda to that bath, okay, and leaves it. Now in the bathroom there is also a saucepan that you can tell where caustic soda had been mixed up. Okay, so that was all left there. So let's call that evidence for now. So then what she does is she takes the candle, she lights the candle, she's carrying up the stairs now the bucket of petrol and the lit candle in oven gloves, right? Because she doesn't want to get burnt herself. So then she decides to pour petrol over the legs and the feet of Deepak, her husband, while he's asleep, and then throws the candle onto the bed. Now the man is alight. He's on fire, okay? What does he do? What would you do if you was on fire and you could still walk? You'd head for the bathroom to try and stop the fire. So he sees the bath full of water. Thank God the bath's full of water. He jumps in the bath of water and there's caustic soda in the water. Plus, he says, because he lived for 6 days after this, by the way, that when he was in that bath, she was throwing caustic soda at him. Now caustic soda will burn the skin, especially if it's a light, nearly to the bone. Right, so this crime is an awful crime. So Deepak then, because trying to get away from this woman, he then gets out the boat and runs out into the street screaming, "I'm going to kill you, help, help, help." Right, now people then have took that as he was going to kill it, but this man is on fire. Right, this man is in terrible pain, not just from the petrol that's now burning his skin away, but also from the caustic soda added to that burn, and you know, it would have been intense. So he is then, the neighbours have come out and helped him, and they have then gone to try, because now this house is on fire, gone to see where Ahluwalia is, and she's holding her son in the living room, and she wouldn't come out, and she told him, "I'm waiting for my husband to come back." So there's clearly some issues there going on with her mental state at that time, okay? So they finally get her out of the house, and she is then arrested and indicted for murder, okay? Because he only lived 6 days. He was in terrible pain, and then he got sepsis and he died from them injuries, okay? So that's what happened to him. But he did say a few things. He couldn't give evidence. He couldn't give false statements because the man was in intense pain, but he did say he didn't have a girlfriend, and that he intended to leave that marriage. Right, he was intending to leave the marriage, and there is letters that was also classed as evidence, as where he had left her for 3 days and she had wrote to him and said, "Please come back," you know. But also in this letter where she's begging him to come back, there's also, "But I won't dye my hair anymore. I won't go to the neighbours anymore. I won't ask for help anymore." So it's conflicting really, because you've got an evidence that proves he'd left her, right? But then you've got a letter that says she wanted him back. But when we look at battered woman syndrome, okay, and that's what it is, and when you look at the effects on the mind of being abused for 10 years or more, you know, she was relying on this man, even though this marriage was abusive and terrible. She was relying on this man. So when he was going to leave her, she reacted like anyone else would when you're going to be left, you know, and this reliance on this, it does affect people. So it's not a straight out case, this one, I think, of just she was lying or she done this, you know. It's a point where you've got to look at how domestic violence, how abuse, how the humiliation and the beating over all these years affected her mentally. So now let's go on to the trial, because she has been indicted for murder, and she went to trial, and her legal team put up the defence of provocation. All right. So provocation is it's you were provoked to do that. You know, it's usually an instantaneous loss. Okay, you've lost control, and so you've you know, and I think the Kaplan case is probably one of the most known cases for this, because it was about a boy that was cooking and he was continually being raped, and this man was then coming to rape him again and come up behind him, and he picked up the saucepan and he hit him over the head, and you know, he died, right? So that's an instantaneous loss. It's where you're in the fear of that happening again now, right? So that's provocation. And then you have these characteristics that go with that. So the characteristics under Kaplan, the boy that was being raped and then killed the man because he was just literally coming up behind him to do it again, was that would a reasonable person in the same situation do the same thing? And so I think with her legal team, they relied on that. They didn't really look into, and she says this herself, they didn't really look into her mental health state at the time, even though she was under mental health and she was known to have had deep depression and lots going on, and there was doctor's fault, but they never followed that up. Okay, so they just went on this partial defence as for this murder as that. Now the jury then have been advised by the judge to about provocation and also about the characteristics of that, and I think he did what he had to do in that case, because that's what it was. Now the prosecution, given that, you know, if I was prosecuting this case and you saw this evidence coming in, so let's look at what the prosecution thought. Okay, they thought, we've got a woman that's educated, she's got a degree in the arts, and she's also trained at some point in some law, maybe not all law, but some law, so she had some understanding of the law. She had lived in England for 10 years, okay, and she worked full time, so she had she was in an environment where she could understand and could do things and could have done something else, and she had tried, so give her that. But with the prosecution, not only that, it's when you have then, you know, it looked like premeditated, because she had got the petrol and the caustic soda a couple of days before. So that's what their case was. And also is when you are looking at where you've been provoked, so you've got provocation, it's got to be instantaneous, right? So the instantaneous loss of control has got to be then. This man went to bed, she went to bed, then she got up and decided to mix up, you know, petrol and use the caustic soda and whatever else she did to this man. But the time span, they said, to be classed as a defence of provocation, she had a cooling off time. The time between him being the last incident and her being murdered was too much time. She could have cooled down. Now under provocation, that's why that defence didn't work. Okay, so the jury then came back with a guilty verdict of murder. Okay, and she was sentenced to murder. Okay, and I think that was in the November. So she went to prison in November. So she was 36 at the time when she went to prison. So now what she does when she's in prison is she learns better English. She writes a book about her case, about her life, and also then there is a a film made later on about this. It's called Provoked. And so she's sitting in prison, she's done this, and then she starts to think she wasn't happy with how the court had treated her. She didn't think that they had took the cultural side of her marriage into consideration. So when we look at Kaplan and stuff, you know, could they relate to her as that? You know, because it wasn't really explained, and that was down really to her her legal team. But also in this court, at her trial, she didn't give evidence in defence of herself. Okay, she didn't want to. So now there's usually a few reasons why you wouldn't give evidence, you know, in your own trial, to protect yourself, to prove what you were doing. One is because sometimes as the defence team wouldn't want you to incriminate yourself, so they wouldn't put you on there. The other is you could say no, which she did. She said no because she said that because all this abuse and everything was going to come out in court, but even though that's your defence, she was embarrassed about her family, knowing what had gone on, what she had suffered over these years, the rapes and that. And she would have, without doubt, have been cross-examined by that prosecution. And if you're not speaking great English and you're not confident, and you've been abused all these years by a man, the prosecutor can rip you to pieces. Okay, so I can understand from her point of view, but I think, you know, you're fighting now for your liberty. Your whole case is about what this man did to you. The only person that can explain to a jury and make that jury understand what's happened to you is you. No matter what language you do it in. They want to see emotion. They want to see what this man has done to you. She didn't give them that opportunity. So really, from the prosecution's point of view, you know, it was a good case, really. It was a clear-cut case. So anyway, she'd gone to prison and everything, and she decided to appeal in 1991, all right, because of these reasons she didn't feel. And then it was a group, I think the Southall Black Community Group, that actually assisted her with her appeal. And they were very good. You know, they worked in with minority groups, and they felt that there was some way that they could appeal this case. So there was 3 grounds put in for appeal. The first ground was where the judge, yes, he did speak about and he did advise the jury on provocation, and they tried to say that he didn't do it right or he didn't do it to its fullest. That was wrong. He did. And the other part was about the characteristics, that when the judge advised on characteristics, he sort of like shut it down to just being that. He didn't bring in the cultural bits and everything else, and that was also proven that that wasn't correct either. And so the judge then had done nothing wrong. But what they did give the appeal on the third ground was that where her legal team could clearly see, and you could clearly see by the actions, I think, and you could clearly see by her mental state at the time, that they didn't really follow up. They didn't look into her mental health state. They didn't seek to find the evidence. You know, they are her team. They are working as a defence team to get you off and to do whatever they can to help you in giving you a defence or giving some mitigating circumstances and why that offence should be, that charge of murder should be dropped down to manslaughter or whatever else. And they didn't actually tell her about diminished responsibility. So there was a lot of issues there that I think was missed. Okay, so the appeal then went through, and I think the appeal, the appeal was then granted on that, and then with the evidence. Now this is the thing with this case, because it was a historic decision, right? So under provocation, this instant loss of control, and you're being attacked and you attack back, and they died. That's instant loss. So what provocation? They couldn't have got it on provocation, so they should have gone to ministry responsibility, which then would give her the mental responsibility wasn't there. Okay, and that then opened up the door to a new precedent of law in common law, which was the slow burn. Okay, now slow burn has got nothing to do with how she burnt him. nearly alive. It's about how women under certain circumstances, when they have suffered for long periods of time from domestic abuse, don't react the same way as someone like Kaplan, who reacted bang, hit him with the saucepan there. They take a longer time, right? So it's called a slow burn. And I usually say to my students, the slow burn is like when you used to watch the old cartoons and you'd have they'd light the fuse of the bomb and it'd be a long thing, and then the bomb would be there and all of a sudden it'd go off. That's what really a slow burn represents. It represents in women a tolerance, I think, for this behaviour, right, from these men. And don't think it's just women that suffer abuse. It's not, it's men as well. But in this case, we're talking about a woman. So the slow burn is where she tolerated this for years. Now, this may have been the last incident, but it wasn't the incident that would have created her to have done that murder in that way, right? She would have been thinking about this, not planning it, but in her mind, how can I escape this? When's this going to stop? This man's even told her he's leaving her. I'm leaving you. But then in her mind, that she's already gone. She's already gone. So the slow burn was brought in from this case, and it's really about women with domestic violence or women that suffer from battered woman syndrome, and how they don't explode in one go, and it isn't instantaneous. It is a long, and it can be over a period of time, and all of a sudden they then react, okay? And so that was how she won her appeal on that. But it is clear, and it should be noted, that in this case, in this appeal, you can't go to court and be charged with murder and then put up a defence, and if that defence doesn't work, then to go and move and try again on a different defence. That is not what this is about. That would never happen. And this is such a historic case because, in a way, I suppose it did happen. They allowed evidence in again, but only because of her team didn't use that evidence, which could have made a difference to the outcome of that trial. So that's really why this appeal was granted, and why now this precedent stands in, so we can now, if we have a client that is indicted on murder, we can now use this case, and we can look back on this case and use this case when we are planning our murder trial, and how we then can help our client and defend a client, okay? You can now use this slow burn because it is in common law, and it is there, and this case law is there that we can now use and rely on in court. So this has been the Ahluwalia case. So let's take a little overview of the facts. So she murdered her husband by buying petrol 2 days before, buying caustic soda a couple of days before, hiding them, cooking him dinner on that day. Yes, he abused her, he pulled her hair, he held her iron to her face, he didn't burn her, he held it to her face, he threatened, and she had the threat of the next morning being beaten again because he wanted money or extort money from the family. Then she says the abuse was of rape and humiliation and beatings that went on for 10 years. Then she alleges that she had, and it is actually fact, that she had then tried to run away and she had tried to get help. That didn't work. So that's that part of it. Then it was the way she murdered, and I think the last thing I think that is not helping her case in that way, it is, and why this causes so much controversy, is because she had some legal training, okay, and she had written to his mother and said that she wanted him to burn in a fiery bath, okay, to cause him the same pain and anguish and hurt that he'd caused her over these years. So mentally, you could say diminished responsibility. Anyway, so this has been the case of Ahluwalia, right? 1989. I'm actually going to leave the citation case there for you and the Kaplan case if you're interested in looking further at the legal side of this. Now, so as I said in the beginning, this case causes debates. You know, you could go out and you could mention this case and you're going to have so many different opinions on this case because of the mixture of evidence, right? But as we have come forward in time and we now know more about domestic violence, we know now more about the brain and how the brain copes with that sort of trauma, and it is trauma, okay? You know, if this case come up today, I don't know which way would it go. We've got better defences now, but you know, we don't know, and I don't think you would win it, and I don't think you would lose it. I really don't know. It would matter about the jury because that's who you're trying to convince. I think if in any trial, if you can give evidence, especially in domestic violence cases, where your personality will come through, where your anguish and your heartache and your trauma that you had suffered would have come through, may have made people look at this case a little bit differently. I think there's that, but I think the main point about this is, with this case, is that domestic violence is a really serious issue in all countries, and especially in the United Kingdom, especially at this time where there's a pandemic and there's a lot of women and children that are now they can't get out because you're not allowed out, you're restricted, and that rate has gone up an awful lot. Okay, so all I can say is, if any of you, man or woman, are suffering from any domestic abuse, go and get help. If they're not going to help you, the person, go to somebody else, but go and get help. Okay, you don't need to take it as far as this. You don't need to live like that. So just try and get some help. All right. And also on this, I shall put on the notes and that the English, the UK areas of where you can seek help if you need it. So anyway, this has been the Ahluwalia case. It is a bit of a disturbing case, I think, with how he died, but it's a legal case, really. So for any of you budding lawyers out there, or ones that you're training in law, or you're really interested in law, these cases and the citations of the cases that I'm going to put in the notes will help you with that. So again, you know what to do. Thumbs up if you like it. Click that subscribe button. You can follow Murder Analysed on YouTube. We're on YouTube, sorry. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. Just look out for Murder Analysed. Okay, so thank you for watching, and until the next time, goodbye.